You've probably already heard that Bitcoin is getting more and more attention, even though demand on Google is currently at a low point. And now just imagine more and more companies are entering the crypto market, especially in Bitcoin. Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, said that their stock has risen by 3,000% since they started buying Bitcoin. And that's pretty crazy, isn't it? And of course, that attracts other companies. They start thinking, hey, maybe we should also buy a bit of Bitcoin. And the more companies do that, the higher the price of Bitcoin rises. That makes it more expensive for the next companies to get in. So basically, this creates a kind of snowball effect. And an example of this is DigiAsia from Indonesia. They just announced that they also want to buy Bitcoin. And this is no longer just pocket change. In the past, companies only invested small amounts, around $500,000. But now we're talking about billions. MicroStrategy is even planning to put another $84 billion into Bitcoin. And that's a huge amount. So you have to wonder where this is all heading. And DigiAsia is a fintech platform known for its digital financial services in Asia. The company wants to invest $100 million in Bitcoin. And that's a really huge amount, right? Just imagine how much money that actually is. Who wouldn't want to have $100 million to spice up their portfolio? But the craziest part is yet to come. They plan to invest 50% of their profits in Bitcoin in the future as well. And that means there's going to be a lot more added if Bitcoin ever reaches a value of $1 million. If DigiAsia only made this one investment, they would have over $1 billion in Bitcoin. And then there's Tether. They recently announced that they have bought over 100,000, bought Bitcoin. And that really shows that big companies are taking Bitcoin seriously. So this is no longer just a small hype, but a really big deal. And you know, a lot of people have been regularly investing in crypto for years now using the dollar cost averaging method. That means they keep buying small amounts no matter if the market goes down or up. And many of them probably have a pretty hefty pile now. Bitcoin or crypto? Simply because they stuck with it. Have you ever thought about doing that too? And then there are companies like Metaplanet who are now joining in and want to follow MicroStrategy's example. Their goal is to have 10,000 Bitcoin by the end of this year and even 21,000 Bitcoin by the end of next year. And that's really crazy and shows that more and more companies are betting on Bitcoin. What do you think? Isn't it insane how much money is flowing into Bitcoin right now? Additionally, Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, spoke in an interview about the current developments surrounding Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. He expressed his excitement about the announcements from companies like GameStop, for example, which is building a Bitcoin position worth $1.5 billion, and Trump Media, which is planning an investment of $2.5 billion. Michael Saylor described this move as bold, smart, and surprising. And he sees it as a growing trend that companies worldwide are adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. And this trend keeps going and going. He also emphasizes that companies like SoftBank, Tether, and Cantor are strengthening the market through investments in Bitcoin. And that companies like Metaplanet, which have gone from a valuation of $10 million to several $1 billion within just a few months, prove the long-term success of this strategy. And Michael Saylor also mentioned that all over the world, from Hong Kong to Korea to Germany and Brazil, companies are doing this, are building up Bitcoin treasuries, which of course promotes the global acceptance of Bitcoin and establishes Bitcoin as digital capital. And despite short-term declines in the stock prices of GameStop and Trump Media after their announcements, Michael Saylor remains convinced that holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet has a positive long-term effect, as is the case with Strategy, which holds over $62 billion in Bitcoin. He explained that a company would continue to buy Bitcoin by issuing financial instruments such as preferred shares to raise capital, and that he expects a continued price increase. Michael Saylor also welcomes the idea of the US government building a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He also said that the US should secure as much Bitcoin as possible before other countries do. He also does not see the involvement of governments and companies as a contradiction to the original idea of Bitcoin, nor to that of Satoshi Nakamoto, but rather as healthy competition that promotes the decentralization and robustness of the network.
Joined by Strategy Chairman Michael Saylor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Many announcements this week are focusing on corporate Bitcoin treasuries. So you have GameStop, which has opened a $500 million position, and Trump Media, which has opened a stake worth $2.5 billion. What do you make of this new trend we're seeing, and are they doing it right?
No force on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. And perhaps my favorite thing over the past few months has been the explosion of energy and enthusiasm around Bitcoin treasury companies. The Trump media announcement came out of the blue. I had no idea that was coming, but that was an incredibly bold, aggressive, and intelligent move. The Nakamoto announcement was a pleasant surprise. I remember the conversation with David, who said that I was doing these conferences and that if I believed in Bitcoin, I should make a lot of money and buy a lot of Bitcoin. He said that I had a point there, and I was just very, very surprised that he actually did it.
SoftBank, Tether, and Cantor are also investing in Jack Bullock.
The 21-year announcement is significant because it brought a large amount of capital from SoftBank into the Bitcoin market. It's great that we're bringing Masa-san into the ecosystem. I think it's fantastic that Tether is supporting a US-listed company. Metaplanet was a $10 million company. A few months earlier, it was a $1 billion company. In the last week or two, it has been flirting with being a $4 or $5 million company. The most successful component in the stock market. The blockchain group in France, it has taken off and is just growing very quickly. And everywhere I go at this conference, someone says, I'm working at a Bitcoin holding company in Hong Kong. I'm doing this in Korea. I've got this going in Abu Dhabi. We're doing this in the Middle East. We've got this in the United Kingdom. We're about to launch one in Kenya. We're starting one in Norway. We're doing this in Germany. And I just think it's great. It's great for Bitcoin. Every one of these companies, in Brazil especially, there's an incredible explosion of interest right now. Every one of these companies is bringing Bitcoin to a different global capital market. They're solving the complexity issues, the capital market issues, the registration issues. They're solving the political problems. They're all ambassadors for Bitcoin. They're planting the orange flag all over the world. And it starts with the event. And then it's like, wow, this is a very successful event. I've never made so much money. And then it's like, tell me again about this Bitcoin thing. How did I make that money? And then pretty soon you have a whole new generation of capitalists who have discovered that Bitcoin is digital capital and maybe the most explosive idea of the era. I mean, your inventory card is worth north of $62 billion worth of Bitcoin. Is there a limit to how we, X number mine, no work at buying Bitcoin? We expected the price of Bitcoin more keep going. We will find it exponentially harder to buy Bitcoin, but we will work exponentially more efficiently. Still, to buy Bitcoin. It used to be. We thought another point, and then in the fourth quarter, we decided that we would raise 21 billion euros. And so we are getting better. Bitcoin is 10 times higher, 10 times more valuable than when we started this journey, and the entire ecosystem is growing. But I think our strategy is very simple. These are credit instruments like preferred stocks, which yield a value in dollars or a portion of Bitcoin upsides with some leverage. This will create leverage for our collective value. And then people will buy the value or the derivatives of the value or the options on the value because they want a higher value from Bitcoin. And people will buy the preferred stocks because they want lower volatility, lower risk, lower value, guaranteed returns. And we will stretch that. And there's no reason why this shouldn't just continue to grow at the ecosystem level. Now, the executive board, which has a strategic Bitcoin reserve, has really set itself the task of finding a budget-neutral way to work Bitcoin into the future, into the hands of the Treasury and Commerce. Are you either in contact with members of the White House cabinet, or do you have ideas on how they could do this? I think it's an incredible cabinet. Many Bitcoin supporters are in the cabinet, and there are a lot of good ideas circulating in the industry. The Bitcoin policy industry has created a few of them. The cabinet members have also mentioned some of these. It's beyond my pay grade to decide what the U.S. government will do and when it will do it. But I think there is an incredible opportunity for the United States. If I were advising the United States, I would say that all the capital in the world is going to flow into cyberspace and into the Bitcoin networks. It is in the best interest of the United States to retain as much of it as possible. Have a nice day. And did you also catch that from Michael Saylor on Twitter? He had a discussion there and in passing said to Metaplanet, buy more Bitcoin. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Apparently he thought they weren't doing enough and should really step on the gas. And then Metaplanet shared how much Bitcoin they have now. The way things are going, you'll easily crack your 10,000 Bitcoin this year. And after that, they want to reach 21,000 Bitcoin. That's crazy, isn't it? And now just imagine if the price predictions for Bitcoin turn out to be true. And if the Bitcoin price climbs to $370,000 to $500,000 per Bitcoin by the end of the year, what will all these companies do then? Will they pay 5 times as much just to get even more Bitcoin? And if Bitcoin really does reach $2.4 million in 2029 or 2030, how would anyone even be able to get more, buy even more Bitcoin? The thing is, every time a company like MicroStrategy buys Bitcoin, they basically take it out of circulation. And those are the Bitcoins that then thousands of people are missing out on. And those people may never be able to own a whole Bitcoin again. So the more these companies buy, the more Bitcoin they purchase, the less is left for us regular individual investors. Soon it will be really hard to be one of those people who own a whole Bitcoin. Isn't it crazy the times we're living in right now? One company spends $100 million on Bitcoin and another is planning to invest $1 billion. And that's absolutely insane. But you know what's even crazier? Many of us are holding more Bitcoin than millionaires and billionaires will ever be able to own. Mathematically, it's impossible for them to have that much. Just like so many others who have invested in Bitcoin. Do you remember the thing about the 0.28 Bitcoin? That's the amount you need to be among the top 1% of Bitcoin holders in the future. So if you have more than 0.28 Bitcoin, you're in the top 1%. And in the past, people thought that was too little, but now, with companies like Metaplanet, MicroStrategy, and BlackRock holding thousands or even millions of Bitcoin, it makes a lot more sense. And just imagine, in the future, 800,000 millionaires won't even be able to own a whole Bitcoin, because there simply won't be enough left. That means the rich will be fighting over the smallest fractions of Bitcoin in the future to get as much as possible. That's why prepare yourself now. And if you want to achieve financial independence through crypto and Bitcoin, click on the link in the description. Below the video, watch the video. It's free to trade.